Joe in VA wants to talk specifically about Jmike's moral theory and wants to talk about determinism. This is great because I can just sit back and Jmike can do all the work. Joe, how are you?
Good. How you guys doing? What's up with you, Kenneth? How you doing, man? I haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, I'm good. So you want to talk about Jmike's moral theory?
I didn't know I had a moral theory.
Oh, well, I guess unless I've been watching your axioms on trial, and I thought you did. It seemed like you had a moral theory that you were following T-Jump's theory.
No, I actually have a debate with him on that because I actually disagree with that theory. So there's parts of it that were attractive to me at one point, but I've since actually don't hold to that because that theory doesn't actually have any normativity to it. It claimed normativity, but that's besides the point, I guess.
So at this point, the callers are going, what are we talking about? Because rather than talk about whose moral theories or whose, maybe a more fruitful way to spend our time would be to talk about the substance of what it is that you wanted to discuss related to any specific moral theory.
Okay, so Jmike, you're a moral realist, right?
No, I'm a moral anti-realist.
Oh, so you've completely changed because
I'm
a moral realist on your show.
Yeah. So through my navigation through these topics, I've always been a non-cognitivist, which that means that I don't think that the propositions have a true or false value in that sense. But I switched to a realist position, and then I've since come off that through my own diving more into these concepts. So there's a lot of nuances there. I'm sorry to steer you the wrong way on that. I know you probably looked at a position a few months ago.
Damn it, Jmike.
So.
Wait,
when you're presented with,
would you think about it and change your mind? What are you doing?
Yeah. It's a horrible thing to do, I think. Yeah.
So when you say you're an anti-realist, you're saying that there's no moral facts. You're saying there's no such thing as any sort of objective right and wrong.
So from my perspective, it seems to be related to desire preferences, but I'm still navigating through whether or not I'm what I would specifically be, whether like you would call an air theorist or subjectivist or things like that. So for me, there's still a lot of navigation there, but yeah, I would basically hold the position that values and things like that are only dependent upon a goal in mind. And so the best thing for me is a framework of well-being, though I acknowledge that is not I'm not going to be able to bridge the is-ought gap like some people claim they can, though I acknowledge that through, our survival and through evolution, the only ones that are here to talk about it are ones that actually care about the well-being and how we are as a social species. So I'm going to side with that goal, knowing that I can't derive it probably objectively, but once I have the actual goal, all the oughts of what I should do just naturally follow out of the picture.
So Joe, I gotta say, we the hosts are profoundly boring people. That's why we have the callers. So what do you believe about morality? What's your moral theory?
Oh, well, I think if naturalism is true, I think the only correct moral theory could be moral nihilism. I think it's the only possibility, actually.
Well, before we go down that track, do you believe that naturalism is true?
I don't.
Wait, great. So what's your moral theory? Where do you think morality comes from?
I think we've been through this before. I think there can only be, as I said, it's a difficult question, but I don't think on naturalism there's any sense of moral obligation, moral duties, I just don't think there can be any way there can be any sense of right and wrong.
Okay, so with all that aside, let's just say, maybe we'll, for the sake of conversation, say we agree with you. So where do we get our moral center? Where does it come from? What makes something right or wrong?
Oh, we've been through this before.
Joe, just if you can restate it, because there's people tuning in that haven't heard the conversation before, and so this is helpful for the audience as well.
Oh, well, me personally, I don't really have a moral theory. I just feel like I've thought about it a lot, and I think there's, I just don't think you can ground any sort of moral, objective standard. I don't think anyone has any moral duties to do anything.
Right. But we're still talking about negatives here. So I'm asking you, if a child, or say a YouTube host, were to come up to you and ask you what makes something right or wrong, what would you tell them?
Nothing. There is no right or wrong.
There is no right or wrong is your personal position?
Yeah.
Okay, so from the call screening thing, it says that you identify as a theist. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I changed my mind. I just became an atheist right now, though. You guys convinced me. I'm just.
Well, so I'm not sure I buy into that. If you're a theist, so what I had talked about earlier and why my position had changed was not being able to bridge the is-ought. And so for people that don't know, the is-ought is, there's nothing about taking assessments of what the world is and stating what we ought to do. There's a kind of a gap there from facts to values. And so from your perspective, if you're theist, like it says on the call, which I hope you're not lying now at this point, I would assume yours comes from God, right? Well, then so your moral foundation would come from God, right?
I think there needs to be a grounding for a moral foundation. That's really
okay.
That's really what I think. So
yeah, and you would say
above time.
I'm so curious about that. I'm sorry. I'm stuck on the whole "I just became an atheist right now" thing, because it's just
a joke. It's a joke.
No, I know, but I get what you're doing, but I wonder why it is that you seem so eager to sidestep having a conversation about what it is that you actually believe.
I just told you what I believe. I believe there needs to be some sort of grounding for any objective.
All right, so
but are we talking about some sort? Are we talking about some abstraction? I mean, in the world of theism, what flavor are you? What God do you believe in?
What God do I believe in? I believe Christianity is true. I wasn't always. I mean, for most of my life, I didn't really believe God existed.
Okay. So within the framework of Christianity, where does right and wrong come from? Why is this so? I don't understand why this is so difficult.
Yeah.
Where does right and wrong come from?
Yeah.
Wouldn't God be the standard? I mean,
you tell me. It's like pulling teeth trying to get you to just answer. It's a very straightforward question. I'm
Yeah, we're hindering on progress in the conversation without getting a little bit of information. I gave you information on my perspective. If you add, we can kind of bridge a gap here.
Okay, what do you want me to exactly say? Do you want me to say how God feels on every single issue?
No.
What's the mean?
It's where does right and wrong come from your perspective, within your belief structure?
It would have to come from a moral lawgiver, something that's above us.
Okay, so good. We made some progress. So it has to come from something. So this is the same problem that every moral theory has. You're not going to bridge what we ought to do or what people should do based off of conflating morality with obedience, because that's not morality. Obeying a command is not like, so if, for example, if a teacher tells you that you can't get up during class to go to the bathroom because it's just against some rule she has, that's an understandable thing based upon a certain goal. Like, we don't want to disrupt the class, or you need to stay there for studying, or whatever it might be. But if the teacher turns around and then commands, I want you to take your book and hit the person behind you as hard as you can, and it's coming from an authority, it doesn't elucidate on why that's right or wrong. To simply state that because it comes from that source that it grounds it doesn't. That just conflates morality with obedience. It's just a category error.
Yeah, because that's the thing with I mean, an absolute lawgiver can give an absolute law, but why where's the ought for me to give a shit?
Yeah.
Because I am going to be punished in the afterlife, maybe. Why should I care about that? It's just we still run into this the is the absolute law that comes down from the lawgiver, but then the ought is like, who cares? Why should I care?
Yeah, you're smuggling in a value into the conclusion, assuming that person has that value.
All right. Can I respond to that?
Please.
Yeah.
Okay. So then under naturalism, there are no oughts. There are no moral duties and obligations. Would you agree?
No more than in your, no more than there are from an absolute lawgiver.
And it also depends. Like,
Okay.
the theory that you were kind of, well, the theory that you were criticizing me on that someone else holds, they are a moral naturalist, right? So there's more than just, like, if you're talking about moral naturalism versus like moral realism or things like that, that's different. But to just simply do a blanket statement that this doesn't solve it for the same reasons that we can't get norms or how we ought to act is the same problem that you have.
Okay, so you're saying it doesn't exist at all. Either way, on either theism or naturalism, there is no moral oughts.
I'm saying that there's no state of affair at which you're going to give to me that smuggles in why I ought to care about that, right? Like, I could give you a pretty simple syllogism, which would be like, premise one, people experience what they call happiness, right? A mental state they call happiness. Premise two, X makes people happy. And then we could conclude and say, well, we ought to do X, but that just sneaks in the value that that person wants to be happy. It could be the case that they actually don't want to be. And so when you sneak in that value, it doesn't matter if you replace God and we just assume God exists for the sake of the argument, or if I say well-being, or I say involuntary impositions of will, or whatever it is, I'm sneaking in some value that I care about that. And that's the discourse of moral philosophy that people are have been trying to figure out.
I'm just asking you: are there any moral duties and obligations under naturalism?
Yes, with respect to certain goals and values.
Yeah, it's a hypothetical imperative. So once you have
whose goals, everybody has different goals. There's people sex trafficking people. Their goals are to do that. There's rapists, killers, dictators. All these people. They don't share your goals, Kenneth.
That is correct.
What they're doing wrong. That's the question.
Yes. So, but when you take a position of like secular humanism or some position where you're trying to do better for the sake of the human, I can say what's wrong. I can say that sex trafficking is wrong because it goes against that standard. But to go to the grounding issue, how we ground it, you're in no better position than anyone else. And so for any argument you make to me to say, well, you don't know if that's actually right or wrong, I can say the same thing to you because nobody has bridged the is-odd.
Right. Well, you're making my point that there is no right or wrong. Those people aren't secular humans.
You didn't listen to what Mike just said. So with respect, once you've got the goals, once you've got the framework, then we can make assessments about what is right or wrong. Okay. It's really quite simple. If we value human life, if we value human freedom, human flourishing, then sex trafficking is wrong.
And also, let me just add real quick.
And what if we don't?
Let me play the realist for a second, Joe. I'm going to play the realist for a second, because what I think is actually a really good argument in this sense, from my perspective, is that we all really do care about well-being. Now, I don't take that as an objective thing, but I think I can make a good case pretending to be a realist in the sense of that for the same reason that you don't want to burn in hell and for the same reason that you want to go to heaven, it relates to your well-being. You want to not burn in hell because it first relates to your well-being, about suffering. It has nothing to do with the God or anything. It has to do with your well-being. So when people even make some claim like my God is the standard, no. You're starting with the fact that if you don't go to heaven, that affects your well-being. If you do, you're with God forever. That affects your well-being positively. So for any case, you're going to be using well-being. I can show pretty much for anybody's case, they're using well-being, unless, they're just saying, I want to kill everybody, including myself, because I think that they don't value plant life. Well, yeah, maybe we have a different argument, but for the exact reason that you don't want to go to hell, it's because it's to protect your well-being.
Look, most people care about their own well-being, not other people's well-being.
I don't think that's true at all. Why would you think that?
How many murders and rapes have been done in the course of time?
Well, but okay, so let's hang on. You just said most people. What percentage of the human population are rapists and murderers?
I have no idea. It doesn't matter, does it?
Is it most people? Yeah, it fucking matters.
It matters with the context of
what you just said. Yes, it matters because most people do care about the well-being of other people. Most people, you can't even help it because we're a social species. It's built into who we are as social apes.
Look, most people don't care. Most people care about their own well-being, not some stranger's well-being.
It's not a dichotomy. Most people care about their own well-being and the well-being of others.
Yeah, and I would actually point to the fact in phenomenology and in psychology that we actually don't. We see the opposite. We see that when there is a victim in certain situations, most situations, that the person is not maximizing what we call well-being. They're not actually, that it's the fact that they think they're getting the well-being off that ignores the fact that there's a victim on the other end of the equation.
Look,
I mean, because if you're going to say like, sorry, go on, Joe.
The reality is most people care about their own well-being. They don't really care about a bunch of strangers' well-being.
This is bullshit. Every time you say it, I'm going to cut you off because that is bullshit. That's bullshit, Joe. Listen, no, it's not. When I was in college, the Boston Marathon bombing happened, and everybody drew attention to the couple of guys that set off these bombs that maimed and killed all these people. But what they didn't focus on was that you had a couple people did this horrendous thing, but if you watch the footage of the immediate aftermath, you saw hundreds of people rushing into the danger zone to help out total strangers, because that's what humanity does. That's what people do. People rush to help strangers. Watch any major disaster, and that's what you will see. You will see a couple of assholes trying to hurt people and hundreds, if not thousands of people rushing to help strangers. You are wrong, Joe.
And you know what also you see, Kenneth? You see people abducted, killed, raped. You see millions and millions of people throughout time killed by lots and lots of people. And
yes.
Joe. Yeah, we see under the framework of it's weird to me that you relate it that way, because then when we go, you said the Christian God, and so under your moral system, that would actually be right for Saul to command the killing of infants in 1 Samuel 15:3, would it not? I mean, would you not have to agree with that assessment?
Look, I haven't even read the Bible, so I don't even know what.
All right. No. We're fucking done with the moral conversation. Why do you believe in?
What are you doing, Joe?
Hold on, Kenneth. We're done with the fucking moral conversation. Why the fuck do you believe in Christianity if you've never read the fucking Bible? Seriously, please answer that.
You think you're fucking talking to Jmike? Right. Fuck yourself.
Cool. All right. Have a good week, Joe. Why call in and waste the time? Why just
why believe in Christianity and you've never read the fucking Bible?
I mean, to be fair,
what is that?
To be fair, I think that applies to, like, globally, the vast majority of people who would identify as Christians have not read the Bible, certainly not in its entirety. There's a sort of social and cultural element to Christianity, where people will identify as Christian without, thinking too seriously about it. But I don't understand why somebody would call into a show to do what Joe did here. So
you don't have a ground for what's right and wrong. And then it's like, well, yeah, I can point out for the same reason objectively, we don't have that, but right and wrong is respect to a goal. I mean, that is an emergent thing from having the goal. Right. But then it's like, I'm going to talk about all these rapists and murderers. Yeah. So the foundation of what you believe in thinks that those things are right in contexts. So, but then you've never actually read the thing. So I don't even know why you called in at that point. It's just like, what the, yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm getting major troll vibes from Joe.